Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today, in the absence of Minecraft events, I'm going to be talking about a post that was made like literally 3 weeks ago. But before we get into that, let's first set the stage. So, yeah, absence of Minecraft events, there's really nothing going on right now. At least it's just MCC, Blockers is on break, PB on break. Mayhem doesn't exist. We gotta check for a pulse. I don't know if there's even a pulse for Mayhem. And then Biome Battle will probably come back. I think they announced that they have gay gnomes. Maybe they just do this for fun, but they'll probably have an event to follow up for this. Don't know when this would be, considering we're already halfway through June, but we'll see. Either way, yeah, it's been so dire, so little has been going on that I've even started speedrunning, which I actually do because I really enjoy it, but it's funny that I've committed to speedrunning now, which I said I've been wanting to do for like half a year, because nothing else is happening. So I guess kind of a good time to start. But today, we're going to be looking at this post from Factor, last place teams in Block Wars Series 3. Now this one I wanted to look at because I myself actually pay attention to last place teams quite a bit. I try to prevent having teams that stand out as weak unless they specifically sign up for a squad that I know is going to be weak, of course, but for the most part, this is a situation that I like to prevent. I think across the board in events, it kind of sucks when there is a last place team, especially if it's by a decent margin, because more often than not, if people aren't as attached to the specific event they're playing, they might not play anymore. And this has happened in Block Wars, I think, at least for the most part. But that is a thing. Some people will just stop playing because of getting last by that much, which is fair. They are completely, justified to their own opinion. But yeah, we will get into this post now. I have this to kind of showcase what team is being talked about, because I don't think this post fully gets into what it is. But actually, it does get mentioned, but I'll showcase it either way. Either way, the introduction here is that, yeah, this just always been a team that kind of falls behind by quite a bit. And then a lot of the active viewer base doesn't necessarily watch these teams, or more so watches the really high-end players who tend to not be on the last place teams by a huge margin. This is something that is often missed, right? This is often something that a lot of people don't really catch on to. They don't really watch many of the low place or the last place POVs. In this instance, Factor watched Blocker 16 live, which was one of the examples of a team that got last by quite a bit, and they felt like it was a good reason to look into it. So either way, let's get into this event. First off, Block Wars 11 Bandits. This is the Block Wars 11 Bandits. Sleepy, Rainho, 5UP-H, and Anton, or Lifeless. This team was a team that apparently started in the middle of the pack and got screwed by Blitzen in battle, caused them to get last for the rest of the events. Were unable to catch up. I thought they could clutch up in Tomb, but ended up getting 7th. Looking how they performed in each game, other than obviously on bottom half in every other game. Some of the high differential games were their main struggle. Yeah. So the thing with this, it's also literally mentioned here. What I'll do with this video is I'll try to look at what went wrong in terms of balancing. This was before 5UP had his pop-off arc. I think Sleepy may have already been starting to get better. I could be wrong, maybe not. Rain, I also don't think had her pop-off arc yet. And then H was like a 15th, I think, average player. I think the problem with this specific instance, kind of similar to, I guess, yeah, it doesn't necessarily reflect the best across the board. This one was kind of an interesting one in terms of what team composition placed where, but also look at this is so close. Either way, yeah, so the thing with the blue team is that it's a team that is at the time a mid balancing team, and I've talked about this in the past. It's a team that doesn't have a top frag, but on the low end, at least on the balancing sheet, they weren't that weak either. This obviously didn't really come to fruition because Anton, I think, ended up getting last by a decent portion. But I think the event prior, because Anton had played before, Anton actually didn't do that poorly. I think he did alright, got 30th-ish. So that would have been balanced had he gotten 30th-ish again. but that didn't happen. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's why the blue team in blockwars 11 was weak. It's because I didn't really, I mean, some like lesser experienced players, and they didn't really have a standout like S tier or top frag to rely on. Also, to be fair, this was kind of a bad event in terms of balancing either way. This was, I think, when we implemented the new point multiplier, or the lack of a point multiplier, I think, which obviously nowadays we know that no longer really exists because it wasn't the best, but it was good to try at least. But yeah, it kind of shows that like there was a top 4 with a decent gap, and then there was obviously one team that was way too strong because for some reason, well, not for some reason, we didn't know that May was good at the game. So it happens. Either way, next up, blockwars 12 Phantoms, which I actually think is a Fruit Berries team, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the team is Fruit, May, Grimmy, Rattles, and I think this is Shizu. They changed their microfuse name apparently, but that is Shizu. I don't know if Shizu was on this team from the jump. I feel like there was somebody else here. Maybe Lineshu? I think Lineshu may have initially been on that team, if I remember correctly, which would have changed things a little bit, but not drastically. Either way, this team started around 4th to 6th in the first half, then got 2nd and Tomb. However, in the latter half of Trail, Blitz, Extraction, and Battle, they were dead last in all 4 games. Massively hot in points, and all of these games other than Blitz and other than Fruit, his other teammates placed bottom 6 individually in PvP games, getting rolled by other teams. In terms of balancing, May and Rattles probably had higher stats. Yes, I can guarantee that. She's only playing rookies in Chaos before this, and Gurmy was new. Yep. They were towards the bottom of, in all non-team split games. Fruit was still new, and yeah, no, this was a difficult one. So the balancing of this event wasn't necessarily like super weak overall. This is actually a pretty normal, like, or at the time a pretty regular level of balancing, right? You have, for example, teams like Green, which got 6th, which have an S tier, 2 high-end players and 2 lower-end players, which is this is a pretty normal balancing like type of balancing for Block Wars. Either way, this one had the same format statistically, but in reality, it was a little different. Fruit, of course, being the quote-unquote S tier, putting him on the same level as Purple in Block Wars is a little ridiculous, which I also don't think we did. Rattles, I think statistically was like, I don't remember specifically, but definitely like higher than 15th, if I had to guess. And May, of course, statistically was, I would have guessed, what, 14th or something from the first event that she played in. So that would have been, on paper, a team that would have 1 top 10 player and 2 15th-ish players. And then Grimmy, we expected to be like bottom 3 because they don't play Minecraft, or at least at this current moment, or at this moment in time of Block Wars 12, they didn't play Minecraft. And then initially, I think this was Lineshu. I really want to say that it was Lineshu. Lineshu was like a 30th to 25th-ish player, which would be a balanced team, statistically speaking. Shizu, of course, is a lower-end player, and then once a team gets, like, on average, a weaker composition combined, Jesus, it just completely falls apart at some point, right? So it is what it is. Next up, though, Block Wars 13, where the team is another Fruit Berries team. The Block Wars 13 Giants. This was tragic. They started with 7th in order up, stayed at last place overall since Game 2. Tomb was horrible for them, even with the 2nd place and 3rd game oversweep. The low differential did not save them from being in the bottom. For the rest of the event, they either got 7th or 8th, in particular, the extraction points weren't even half of the 7th place team, and battle was also quite bad. Anthos did have a crazy performance in Block Wars 11, so that is true. Shadoon has fluctuating performances, that is also true. Quite only played Rookies 2 and Block Wars 12, had quite a good performance in the latter one. True, Toma was new, and Ursaru was huge, very similar to the previous Fruit team. Yeah, this initially was Radoons instead of Fruit Berries, which statistically I don't think makes a huge difference. Either way, the thing with this type of balancing, which is still not great, but what happened with this balancing was Shadoon, I think, yeah, did have very fluctuating performances. I want to say his most recent performance before this was great. Yeah, he got 8th, and before that, I think he had like a S tier average or very close to an S tier average, which is very good. With red there, that would have been almost an S tier duo. Not really an S tier duo, but almost an S tier duo. Kind of comparable to what my team ended up looking like, right? With me and Feinberg. Of course, Feinberg is better than what Shadoon's would be, and I, at this current moment in time, am better than what Shadoon was, but it's the most comparable, right? Either way, Anthos, I think, was Anthos? Anthos was in Block Wars 12 with me, but that felt like a fluke performance because of how unbalanced our team was. But then the following event, of course, with how unbalanced this team was as well, Anthos didn't hold up to like a middle tier performance. Toma, being a new player who doesn't play Minecraft, was expected to be like bottom 3. And then probably like around 30th, because I think the event prior he'd been with Feinberg, and this was still the time. Oh no, he got 24th. Yeah, so this was with Feinberg. So this was kind of the era, or the still the point of time where I was learning how to like balance Feinberg. Keep in mind, this was when Block Wars as an event had already changed quite a bit, and I was actively trying to figure it out. We ended up figuring it out. Of course, but this was still the era where we were trying to figure it out a little bit. This team, though, was kind of intended to be a stronger one because I had yet to make the finale since the first event ever, right? So that was kind of like a shoo-in, because after this is when I think got 3 back-to-back teams that didn't do that well, but people often overlook that. So, yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, Block Wars 13, just unlucky. It's just unlucky. I mean, it's the similar formats of why things went wrong, I guess, in terms of the previous Fruitberries team, right? But there is a comeback. There's a comeback to this. Does Rookies get mentioned? Rookies does get mentioned. Block Wars Rookies 3. The last place team was Pink, which is Misty, Vinny, Pirates Off, or Simple Flips, and Point Crow. This is a bit of a difficult one because of the balancing of rookies, right? So yeah, this was a team that started in 6th for the first few games, with a very low score in order up in 3rd in party. After game 4, obviously, that had been in last for the rest of the event. I would note that they were not in last in any game after this until Extraction. Even in Extraction, they were not last by that much, just mainly they could not catch up. In terms of downside, this was mainly on Misty's insane performance previously, getting top 10 since Block Wars 4, other than Chaos. The end result was Misty at 6th, and the rest of the team 25th or below, along with the Phantoms. This really proven hero mode teams and rookies do not work. I honestly don't even think this is a hero mode like team in terms of balancing. This was just an instance of just general underperformance, I think. I mean, we can look at the individual scores. This team is still like weak. This would have probably gotten like 5th or 6th, right? Probably 6th considering the gap for the rest. But if we look at one second, if we look at the individual leaderboard, you see Misty in 6th, and then you see Simple 25th, Vinny 32nd, Eric, and then Thor down here. This is an interesting moment to mention that Eric and Thor showed up late for this event, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think woke up right before this event, which is obviously going to be rough. They were not warmed up at all. They just kind of went in blind, and that was their demise, you could say. Because what ended up happening, in terms of what Eric had done previously, he has played only rookies. I'm fairly sure, for Rookies 1, he practiced, I think, a little bit, maybe? No, he didn't. No, because the event where D-Tune joined was when he did a practice session, and it shows. This was like literally the day before or something like that, where Bro ended up placing not even bottom 15, right? Of course, his team was pretty solid too, but it is a relevant thing to mention. Like, hey, he put in practice and it worked out well. I balanced him based off of this because I obviously, I forgot, like, hey, he didn't put in practice. Also, this is another factor where I cannot predict that somebody will show up late, wake up right before the event, etc. And that's why I think this team ended up falling flat a little bit, because in terms of video game skill or even micro skill, I think Thor, the event prior, had also done pretty well. Right? He got like middle of the pack, 22nd. This was not like a higher comp rookies compared to the event prior, or like not much higher than the event prior. So this was just in a situation where like these two people had a previous event that was much better and had a unpredictable factor take place, and that's why they fell flat. And that's unlucky. It happens. Because realistically, what should have happened was Vinny bottom frags the team. Still, Vinny getting 32nd on that low of a team is pretty impressive. Even though it's rookies, of course, it's still notable. Eric and Thor should have been around like where Simple was, and Simple would have probably been like 20th or something. That is how the team should have been balanced, because that's how it, like, based off of previous performances, that should have happened, but it didn't, because of them waking up literally right before the event and showing up at the last second. Twitch Rivals is up next, which is this event where the last place team was Radoons, Crowfang, Maddie Mookberry, Toby, and Callum. This one I do recall specifically being a unfortunate one. So this is the only full Minecrafter team in the event, consisting of etc. Yeah, Twitch Rivals was the most balanced, but the comments were definitely way behind, of course. We don't really need to look into why. We kind of just know in terms of balancing Tubbo overrated stats, and given how much Tubbo was caring way more about content, and this team wasn't already a great team in terms of original balancing, was doomed so pretty much from the start. However, this was such a peak team for the event in terms of funniness. Yeah, so what happened with Red Team, I can't get into the full extent of Twitch Rivals balancing, of course, because there's a lot of things that, I mean, not that there's things that would be like bad to talk about, but I just don't think it's necessary to talk about them publicly. It's complicated, right? The way Twitch Rivals rosters, at least in terms of how we do it, I don't know if MCC is the same thing, but in terms of how we were told to approach it, the way to approach this was difficult. It was tricky. And it resulted in some decision making across the board that was kind of odd, similar to what happened in blockwars 16. There were some things we had to commit to early on to make them fully happen, and that resulted in some other quote-unquote issues. One thing that's different in terms of Twitch Rivals compared to regular events is, in regular events you have people who sign up, and then we invite a handful of people. The people we invite directly, of course, are confirmed, but everyone who signs up isn't confirmed until the teams are out, or if we tell them they're confirmed in, right? In Twitch Rivals, you only have like quote-unquote signups in terms of showing interest to play. What's different here is every person you consider to put in has to be confirmed, right? That you have to confirm them first before you can like really, well, you can like make a draft, but you have to confirm them at some point. What happens here is you have an idea and it doesn't fully come to fruition, but then you've committed to it to an extent, and now you have to somehow salvage it. This was the instance, and Red Team was to an extent affected by this. And that's why the Red Team fell behind a little bit in terms of overall balancing. Additionally, though, I will say Toby did have higher rated stats, because I don't think Toby had played in Series 3 yet, and I think the event prior, Blockwars Chaos, wasn't even counted. This looks really, really unfortunate. I think the last event he had played, yeah, was Blockwars Rookies and Blockwars 6, where he was on his absolute GOAT arc. Now, obviously, these stats can't be weighted too much. I think I predicted Toby to get, like, 20th, maybe 25th. I think he ended up getting 30-something, right? So, that's just unlucky. But, yeah, Twitch Rivals is a difficult one. If we ever do another Twitch Rivals, I hope we can figure something out where things get a little bit easier to put together, because this one was difficult. Also, of course, there are other things I wanted to do in terms of cool combinations, right? For example, if I look at the teams, of course, you have Sleepy Rain Deme as like a combo. 5-Up was a later addition. Fruit, I wanted to give a good team. I think Sleepy and Rain, as much as they had a good team, still were in the group of could get a good team. In retrospect, I should have tried to make Green a stronger team, because this Green team was supposed to be a really good team. And then just give them Fruit Berries or something, make Fruit and Pete like a duo, and make that work somehow. Obviously, that didn't happen. I also don't know how I would have even made that work, because you would have had to take out... yeah, that would have been tricky. Either way. Yeah, so that was a thing I wanted to make happen. I wanted to do Red and Toby on the same team. This was something that we had talked about for wanting to do for a while. Yellow team had Cab and May, which was like a duo people wanted to see. Then on the green team, I wanted to put what's it called? Jordan and Samantha on the same team, Small and Captain Sparkles. That would have been cool, of course, and it happened. That was fun. It was a fun combination. Then on the Aqua team, you have SK returning, or not returning, sorry, SK debuting, and then Doki and Gumi with Hana was like a thing, and then Ant fit in really well there. Blue team obviously was mostly a returning team, with Shadoon taking the spots from Fruits because Shadoon and Sneak was a requested duo at the time. Shane and Purple, the duo, of course, on Purple, and then Pink. We just had Papa Plata join the roster, and that was cool. So made it work somehow, right? Put Feinberg on there, and that was cool. So anyways, yeah, that's how that one went. Block Wars 14. This, I think, is probably the most relevant example. Block Wars 14 is Misty, Smant, Krinios, CJ, and Grand Pooh Bear, which was a very unfortunate team in terms of balancing. Yeah, this was one of the teams that inspired me to do this post, even though I did not watch them live. Exactly. So this team never got out of last place in terms of balancing. There were so many factors to this. As mentioned in Rookies 3, Misty had previously gotten top 10s for so many events. 20th this time around was very, very rough. CJ just had a generational Rookies 3 debut, so Wolfeei had to give him quite high stats for balancing. Besides, Cornelius recently had a top 10 in Block Wars 12. There's generally so many factors that contributed to this result. I don't think anyone before the event really thought that they will fall behind that much. Yeah, I think some people didn't think Orange was very strong. I also didn't necessarily think Orange was like a strong team. It was just kind of statistically balanced, but of course, like mentioned in the post, Ryan Cornelius had a really strong performance. I think literally getting like, was it 10th or something? The event 8th. Literally the event before 8th. I don't know if what the most recent stats before then were. Block Wars 8. Yeah, see this. The problem is by the time Block Wars 14 happens, these stats are mostly irrelevant. So I'm just basing it off of the recent thing because that is the most up to date. And even then as well, Block Wars 12 was a higher comp event than I think Block Wars 14 ended up being. So that's another reason why that factor came into play. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Then if you look at Smant and CJ previously had gotten 8th in Rookies, which converting Rookies to like a regular event is very difficult, but I probably assumed he would get like 20th to 25th, maybe, probably 25th, because Rookies 3 is like a lower comp, but I don't really know specifically what the balancing ended up being like for that. Either way, I mean, obviously you see, as of recent, he's been able to improve quite a bit. 18th in Block Wars 16 is like sick, so he's hopefully going to be on a GOAT arc again. We'll see. But yeah, so CJ had a prior better placement. Smant had been roughly around like 30th-ish. I think I accidentally keep giving Smant like teams that can pop off, but don't necessarily have like a high level of strength to pop off. He's only really had like one proper strong team, and that's like early Block Wars where he got 24th. Actually, no, 2. This Rookies 2 team was pretty good too. But either way, yeah, this Orange team just had a bunch of people that statistically were higher than what they ended up performing by, unfortunately, a huge margin, which was just unlucky. It just happens. But another example of, I want to put some people together that would be fun to see together, and then it didn't really come to fruition, unfortunately. Either way, next up, Block Wars 15 Bandits. This is actually my team, which is an interesting example. So the thing with Booster, Lee, Giga, me, Porcelain Mid. The thing with this team is that I had just come off of a second win, right, in Block Wars 14. An unexpected, from like the initial making of the teams, unexpected second win. I wanted to not win again, which I didn't necessarily make this team to like lose, of course, but I did make this team knowing it was on average probably a bit weaker. So we'll look at it here. This team mainly got destroyed by game order, while not the greatest in multiple scores. Luckily, me, Joel, Giga, Booster, and Lee were not as far behind compared to some of the other teams in other events. True. They got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in order up, Oversleep, Blitz, and Neutralities respectively, which are all the first half of the Block Wars 15. Disaster struck afterwards, so they got dead last in Lunge, Raise, and Battle back to back with a 7th performance in Party. Battle game was the main killer of this team. Yeah, of course. So we were actually a top performing team in the beginning, and then all of our worst games came at the end, and I think this is when the new multiplier came back into play, right? I feel like that was the case at least. So it was just lower and lower, and we lose, and oh, it's just, yeah, we just kind of got screwed, unfortunately. Um, but the event was balanced overall. If you look at this, pretty balanced event. Of course, you could look at like yellow for like oh, this team was way stronger. But then if you look at like last game, or sorry, if you look at like, yeah, just across the board in some of the later games, they do end up performing really, literally in the 3 games where my team gets last, they get second. It's like, what do I do, man? And then party, they end up getting like 4th, which is like whatever, right? Either way, yeah, so decently balanced team. The next up, blockwars 16, which is of course the big one for this post. This is a team of Jumperwho, Cherryfire, Ross, Cumber, Squiddo, and Oppo. So this was the quote-unquote... Okay, this event had a goal of featuring over 50% women in the roster because it's Women's History Month, right? Just a nice little touch to add into this event. It didn't end up coming to fruition entirely because of scheduling issues. I think originally we were aiming for like even 30, but just so many people were unable to play. And we tried to, again, secure some teams early on to maybe make the odds of getting certain people to play higher. It didn't really come to fruition, like mentioned. It didn't fully happen, but to an extent, we did all right in this roster. Either way, this red team is an example, like mentioned here. We'll just look at this. Also, yeah, they got last by a huge margin, of course, because the balancing of this team, which just wasn't very good. In terms of balancing, Jumper's decent placement was definitely used to balance the placement, but the context here is that Jumper just came back from a long-distance trip. Another unexpected factor, of course. Oppo was also quite inconsistent in terms of previous performance. That is true. In addition to Cherry being rated quite highly than expected, there were so many factors that just ruined this team. I also admit that while trying to create the roster with many women, rep balancing was quite off. Even then, I think a lot of people, including me, just never expected the comments to get last, let alone getting last by quite a margin. Yeah. So this one, it's already mentioned, right? Jumper apparently had like just came back from a trip, so was just not really warmed up to playing Minecraft like that. I think previously Jumper had gotten like almost top 10, right? Yeah, like 12th and 10th prior. So that was just really unlucky, right? It happens. Oppo had very fluctuating performances previously. blockwars 11, 15th, of course, is relevant, but in Series 2, Oppo had, I mean, it shows literally right here, 5th to 25th, 11th, and like, it's just so, it was really difficult to predict specifically where Oppo would place. So I have to assume somewhere realistic with a lower comp roster, probably Oppo ended up being predicted to get like 10th or maybe like close to 10th, right? Which didn't end up happening, of course. So those are 2 factors. Then Cherryfire was overrated in terms of newcomer debut ability, mostly because of what the public had been saying about how well they would perform in an event like this, because Cherryfire had been mentioned previously to be like, I would like to see this person in blockwars, candidate, where I think I had them predicted at like 25th because of the hyping up of all of this. Ross, I think, ended up being predicted like lower end. I don't know specifically where, probably like around 30 to 35. Squiddo, I think, had played previously, I want to say. Yeah, Squiddo had played once, got 38th on like a last minute substitution. I thought maybe slight improvement, didn't end up coming to fruition, of course. I think, yeah, Ross played like once before, 35th, so yeah, that was probably where I would have predicted them. So it was just an unfortunate example, right, of a team that just fell behind because of factors that were difficult to really account for in terms of balancing. This was just also a tricky event in terms of team making because, like mentioned, we kind of locked in certain teams early on. Even, for example, the pink team, which people were whining and complaining about even though it got second, was an example of things that got locked in early on. Haka, Ruse, and Shinri was a trio that was confirmed. We knew that was going to happen. We assumed Ruse, of course, was not as good as they ended up performing. I think Ruse got like 20th or something in this roster, right? Or like close to it. Yeah, 22nd, which is way higher than I thought would happen. Thought it would have been like 30th at the most, because we knew that they played a bit of Minecraft, but I didn't know to what extent, right? Either way, with that foundation, an S-tier duo was literally the only way for that team to be balanced. Did it have to be Fine and Shane? No, it didn't. It could have been like Fruit instead of Shane, theoretically speaking. But the event prior, I think Shane had been benched, so this was an event that he should have played in. And I think Fine had also been benched the event before. I could be wrong. No, he had been benched in blockwars 14. So that was another situation of somebody who should be in this event, right? So both of them would have, quote unquote, have to play. Then it's just a matter of, well, you could swap them in with, in and out with somebody else, right? Put Shane on blue, for example, but does that make as much sense as him being on pink when, as well, additionally, it was requested for Fine and Shane to be on the same team by a lot of people, right? So, anyways, next up, it's Rookies 4, I assume, is going to be on there, yeah? Yeah, Rookies 4 Phantoms. What is the Rookies 4 Phantoms? Oh, yeah, right. Okay. CJ, Volpixie, Hackerling, Della, and Fur. Yeah, this was a very peculiar event. This was, I think, the lowest comp one we've done so far, right? Because, yeah, I said no S tier, so I was... Well, me and 5UP statistically were the S tiers for this event. SK ended up also putting up a very good performance, but statistically, SK had not been, like, S tier level yet. Either way, yeah, what happened with the Phantoms here, sort of in the middle, but then proceeded movement games caused them to tumble down. They did manage to get 5th and Blitz in the last 3 games of Party, Extraction, and Lunge were not great for them. In terms of balancing, 2 newcomers was pretty rough. First, you did okay when you factor in the team placement. I did great for balancing this rookies. Sure. I mean, it was a decently balanced event. Red team was known to be a really strong team. Unfortunately, it's a situation again where an opportunity arises for certain people to play, and this is what they ask for. And it's like, they're getting people for me to play. Do I tell them no? Not really, right? So, and also statistically, this team wouldn't even been like that crazy, but it was very strong. Or at least ended up being very strong. But it, again, only got second because the pink team was better, which I didn't think was going to happen, but it did. Either way, this event was overall decently balanced. The purple team was just unfortunate, unlucky. And this is kind of an example of, like, I accidentally keep giving the same-ish people the teams that perform roughly weaker, right? CJ has been on like 2 or 3 of these so far. Fur, I know, has been on a few of the lower placing teams. I don't even think Fur's made finals, right? Or something like that. It's like a notorious thing where Fur's not even made it to the finale in a long time. Oh no, he's been to the finale in Series 2, but he's never won, I think. So Series 3, Fur has yet to make it to the final. So maybe soon. Maybe I'll figure something out. It's gonna be difficult. Either way, is there also Brawl? Oh, Brawl's also on here. Yeah, Brawl Phantoms, we don't really need to get into it because it was kind of intentional to an extent, right? We had a quote-unquote viewer team, video application team is really what it was called, and it was not really ever gonna be a very balanced team. In reality, with how these events kind of go, it was either gonna be a team that was weaker than the rest, a lot weaker than the rest, or a lot stronger than the rest, because, you know, it's hard to predict certain people's ability to perform. This team ended up doing decent, but it obviously wasn't really a very, very strong performance. But again, I also didn't expect them to put up a very crazy performance. So, finding the common causes, let's take a look. Newcomers, yeah, newcomers are always difficult. Players who are still quite new, yeah, we have a lot of people that go in and out in terms of actively playing the event. Inconsistent players, yeah, some people get like top 10 and then 25th and then 15th and then 25th again and then top 10. It's hard, right? It's hard sometimes. Players did not perform as well recently, yeah, to an extent. Reliance on certain players' performances, yeah, that this is definitely an example. And then, yeah, the game specifically sometimes have unfortunate things. So yeah, either way, Yeah, subs. This is a big one. I feel like people often overlook when there's a sub that causes a team to be either a lot weaker or a lot stronger. Either way, yeah, that is the post that we looked at. Let me know your thoughts on last place teams in Block Wars and your thoughts on you know, how these take place and happen in Block Wars historically. Hopefully, whenever Block Wars comes back from break, we won't have one of these teams that gets last by a lot. We'll have like a Block Wars 15 situation where they do really well and then get last, or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, thank you all for watching. See you later. Goodbye.